Everyone, welcome. So grateful to have you all. So this is Reality Tea with Hali. This is my first episode. I'm so excited to be doing this with you. For my first episode, I'm going to recap Vanderpump Rules, the finale. Finally, we've waited a long time for it. I remember where I was when I saw the breaking news. I was at work. It was a Friday evening, and I looked at my Instagram and I saw allegedly Sandoval has been caught with Raquel, who we know to be now Rachel, and Ariana and Tom have broken up. And I was like, this is fake news, I don't believe this, but apparently it's true. So in the next 2-3 days we saw the unraveling of what happened, and Kristen Dute, who used to be on Vanderpump Rules, came out. And if you're a Vanderpump Rules fan like I've been for many years, you will know that Kristen and how everything went down with Kristen, Tom and Ariana, all of this has come full circle. I do have a lot of empathy for Ariana, what she's going through, but I think this is a lesson for all of us that I've had to learn myself, that just because you're the cool girlfriend doesn't mean that somebody will appreciate you or is worthy of you. Yeah, that's another story for another time. So let's start. This is episode 15, and I'm going to call this all a gaslighting. I can't remember the name of the episode, but we just see complete gaslighting from both of the Toms, particularly Sandoval, and then Schwartz we'll get into. But it's just very telling of LA. I still live in LA, and I met a lot of people like these two. Well, the group in general, but particularly these two guys, very unfortunate. So my first thing I want to get into is the rating, and I'm going to rate this 11 out of 10 because it was so good. I think there were too many scenes, especially as I was writing notes for this. I was like, these are a lot of scenes. Usually it's like drawn out, especially if you remember Beach Don't Kill My Vibe, which I think was episode 11 or 12, one of those episodes, but that was more like seamless. You could tell it was kind of chopped together. So that's my only critique of it. Otherwise, it's very good. It gave us what we needed, gave us why he did it, and so forth and so forth. So we first start out with them flashbacking to Watch What Happens Live. Sheena and Rachel. I'm going to refer to Raquel as Rachel because it seems more appropriate. I don't know why. I think the name Rachel, I'm sorry if your name is Rachel, it's just not as interesting as Raquel, you know. I grew up with a Raquel. She was very sweet. And a Rachel. We had a Rachel and a Raquel in my school, in my class. Anyway, so we go back to Watch What Happens Live. I believe it was the first week of March that they were on, and Rachel says Sandoval is hotter than Schwartz, and Sheena's very shocked. And by the way, I just feel like Sheena needs to be more truthful. In fact, I have always loved Vanderpump Rules. I've watched it from episode 1, season 1. I remember exactly where I was when I watched episode 1, my apartment in New York, and I was literally watching my TV like, I cannot believe this is real, you know. But Sheena has really shown her true colors of the fact that I believe her loyalty changes depending on the situation, except for with Ariana. She's been very loyal to Ariana, but everybody else, it shifts. Her loyalty shifts. And I mean about how she treated Katie this season. I'm not happy with the way she treated Katie this season at all. And I think she has a lot of, I don't know, I think she needs to apologize, but her apology should also be shown through action. So I'm team Katie with Katie versus Sheena. So we see Ariana. We cut back to Ariana's interview where they do like the backdrop and there's a one-on-one. I forgot what they call that. But we see Ariana say what happened. She says her intuition a woman's intuition, she finds a recording of them basically having sex on FaceTime. And I'm just like asking, why did he tape it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, was he gonna go back and look at it like porn? So Ariana, we go to the scene where Ariana confronts Tom. He sits down, she's being with her friends, he sits down, and I believe she has a blanket on her, she's looking at him, and let me tell you something. I've learned the same lesson as Ariana, and I had to set serious boundaries. I used to be like the chilled girlfriend, the girlfriend that would do anything for her boyfriend, and I think that's what we're taught. We're taught like, just go with the flow, be in love, and see where that leads you. And I had to learn, especially in I would say a relationship I ended 4 years ago. That was my ultimate one, when I was like, enough. I had to set serious boundaries, and I learned that I'm okay not being like the cool girlfriend that gets along with everybody, because I used to be, and only I got burnt. And I feel like LA particularly is filled with people that will use you and abuse you, and if you don't stick up for yourself, you'll end up with people like that in your life. And I don't think it's her fault at all. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that Ariana needs to set boundaries so she doesn't let people like this into her life, and I think we all do. So apparently they're living together, and I can't imagine living with someone like this. Ariana basically calls Tom out, and she says that their friendship is BS, and I agree with that. I don't think that they have a real friendship. And he's like, yes they do. He seems like a very empty and hollow person. He reminds me so much of an ex I have, 2 exes I have, and I'm just like getting flashbacks of my relationships with them. And in one of those relationships, 2 of them, they blamed me for what they did wrong. One of them, both of them cheated, but it's a very similar situation. I wasn't in it for 9 years, but very similar situation. One of them, I caught him texting his ex. He had lied to me about that. I don't want to get too much into it because this is not about me, but in a nutshell, because of that, I knew he would try to blame her, like my ex did with me. And he tries to blame her, and I've definitely been there before. I'm very proud of Ariana for sticking up for herself. She's been so strong, for being coherent with her words and being able to communicate how she feels, what happened to her, and to set boundaries and speak up for herself. It's very admirable. She deserves every bit of glory and praise she's getting right now. She really, really does, and I'm very excited for her future. So they go to Schwartz's apartment, and I saw a picture of LVP on Schwartz's floor, and I'm like, why does Schwartz have a picture of LVP on his floor? It looks like he's gonna hang it up at some point, but it's just really weird. Schwartz, to me, is a typical Libra, and actually my ex, both of the exes that I spoke about earlier were both Libras. And I found with Libras in general, not just my exes, but just as a whole, they usually defend the wrong person, and they usually need to get a backbone. I'm not saying all, but lots of Libras I've met are usually, they have blurred sense of boundaries. They usually stick up, like I said, for the wrong person, and I feel like a lot of them are spineless. So, it's funny, they showed a clip of Jax like talking about Ariana and Tom's relationship while the Toms are talking about Ariana and Tom's relationship. And he says, the clip shows him saying, it was a facade, and what really goes on isn't really what goes on that we see. And when all this broke initially, early March, I just kept remembering Jax, and how Jax has been right about almost everything. And I used to always say to my friends and people that watch Vanderpump Rules that I've always loved Jax. Well, for Jax and Stassi, there would be no real show because people wouldn't watch. But also James Kennedy, because what I love about James Kennedy and Jax, they are who they are. You know, we know Jax, and he's grown, I believe. Who knows for how long? But we know that James is who he is. We know that Jax is who he is. I prefer people that are just upfront with who they are. If you're nice, be nice. If you're not, don't be nice. You know what I'm saying? I don't like people that are fake, and I think the Toms are very fake. I remember seeing the picture of, actually, they go back, excuse me. They show a picture of Rachel, on Tom's shoulders during Coachella. Tom Sandoval. And I remember seeing that picture, and I was like, why is she on his shoulders? This is so inappropriate. Ariana, I would really not be happy with it. And I think maybe she didn't want to be labeled the jealous girlfriend. But that's not jealousy. It's inappropriate for somebody to be on somebody else's shoulders like that. Unless you guys are friends and you don't have any significant others. But if you have a significant other, I would not be okay with that. But that's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that. So they go back to Ariana's house, and she's explaining what happened to Sheena, well, to her friends. I believe the one on the left is Logan. The one on the right, I forgot his name. But we see Logan a lot. In fact, I actually saw Logan when I was in LA. I forgot where I saw him, but I used to see him quite frequently. I've seen a lot of the staff, actually, when I used to live in LA. I saw Peter. I met Peter, and I didn't get a good impression. At all, actually. A lot of people in LA are just very, I don't want to call them narcissists, but they have a tendency to make everything about themselves, and that's what I thought he did. So, Logan's on the left, another friend is on the right, and then Sheena walks in first. Sheena walks in, and then Katie comes in. And I found it very interesting. I always like to see like the hidden things, you know. They call them Easter eggs. And I saw Sheena give Katie a drink. And she was like, I suppose we can just like put this behind us. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what she said. And she was like, and Katie's like, yeah, you know. But I think that's Sheena's, I'm not a huge fan of Sheena. You know, even after what she did singing up Ariana, I stopped watching. I didn't mention this before, but I stopped watching Vanderpump Rules season 6 and season 7 because I just found Stassi, Sheena, those two to be really mean and like backstabby. I found Sheena to be very desperate, and it kind of reminded me of LA where I was living at the time, and I was like, I already have to deal with these people. I don't want to watch them on my TV screen. So I've just always seen, I've grown to see that side in Sheena, that I just feel like she doesn't really deal with her problems, and she's very superficial. That's often the critique I have of Taurus in general. I feel like they can have that similar energy to Libra, but not as bad. And they will show some loyalty. But yeah, so I'm very into astrology, in case you can tell. So Katie reveals that she had hints about the situation, and honestly, I do too. I remember even with Billy Lee, I actually ended up watching season 7 during COVID, and I saw at the reunion when they said Billy Lee and Sandoval slept together. Honestly, throughout the season, I was like, I feel like something's going on, because he was very defendant of her and so forth. It just seemed like an odd situation. But again, if I were Ariana, the girlfriend, I would not. And I think sometimes we think that's what being trusting is, but asking why your boyfriend is spending tons of time with someone and like flirting with them and doing inappropriate things is not being jealous. It's being a girlfriend, you know, and it's being concerned, and it's putting up boundaries of situations that no significant other should be in, you know. So they go to James and Ali's apartment, and James is mad at Sandoval, says he is a backstabber. Makes me wonder when this actually started, you know. I've been thinking that a lot. When did this actually start? Because it seems like it started more than 7 months ago from when everything broke. So they would say, what, July? I have a strong feeling. And you know, it's really weird. My intuition is telling me it started even when James and Rachel were still together. Because there's certain things Sandoval did for the relationship that doesn't make any sense. And I was watching an episode. I was actually watching a part of season 7 last night. And the way Sandoval is to look at Rachel, just go back. If you can, go back and watch seasons with his interactions with Rachel and Sandoval. He clearly seems interested in her. Let's just say it like that. So, Lala's going off about Tom. They go back to the past where Billy Lee denied sleeping with Sandoval, but I actually think they did. You know, the thing is, I love James so much. You know, he's talking to Rachel on the phone, on the phone, and I'm surprised she answered his phone call, number one, because apparently she's been running away from people. But I also, as a fellow Aquarius, I've always loved James, always. And I feel like as a fellow Aquarius, he's an Aquarius like me, we love to get even. We'll always get even, in some form or manner. Not all Aquarius are like this, but I definitely have that side. Where I always tell people, like, you don't want me as your enemy. I'm not going to do anything bad to you, but I will get even with you and remind you not to do that to me or anyone else. And I think that's why James threw the drink in Schwartz's face, because he was like, enough, you know. So I just wanted to put that in. I wanted to add that. So they go to Rachel's apartment where Tom walks in, and she has the galaxy lights behind her. It's funny, I have those very similar galaxy lights, and I was like, when they were making fun of her early on in the season, I was like, I'm not like that. So Rachel and Tom meet up to speak about what happened. The scene is kind of awkward. You know, they don't have any chemistry. I don't see any chemistry. And it just reminds me, it's just like, very sad to see this. A 40-year-old guy going through a midlife crisis with this young 20-something-year-old. And you can just tell both of them have so many issues that they haven't worked on themselves, and they're just like projecting it into this relationship that's probably not going to go anywhere. And she's like, is this my karma? They're sitting on the couch, and he's like, is this my karma? Is this my karma? And I was just thinking, this is the tip of the iceberg of your karma. When you do something like this to someone, you're going to get it, girl. I'm telling you, you're really going to get it unless you make right with your life. So Rihanna meets up with LVP at her house, and LVP says something. I love when LVP speaks, because I think, you know, I grew up in South Africa and England, and I think I grew up mostly British. You know, I went to British school, and there's a lot of British culture that I have absorbed. And something that that's what I love about LVP. She reminds me of how I grew up. And she has a way of saying things that only British people, only English people can say, that really like sticks with you. And she said the deceit. And that's the thing about cheating. It's not the act, it's the deceit. It's the going about, and that's how I felt about my ex. You know, if it was just cheating, the actual act of having sex with another person is not the problem. That I could get over. But it's the lying, it's the deceit, it's the going behind someone's back. It's that behavior that is so creepy, sinister, and makes you not want to trust that person again. So we go to Katie's place. I think it's an apartment she lives in. Actually, if that picture that they showed of the apartment is hers, I used to teach yoga. Yeah, that was just really funny. So Schwartz drops off the dogs, and you can tell he doesn't want to see her. He's like breathing in and out very hard, and you know, like trying to basically say, okay, I know I deserve what you're going to tell me. So he asks her for a Coke. Casey goes to the couch, and he makes his way to the kitchen, and he doesn't even like, before he asks her in the kitchen, I'm like, excuse me? Anyways, he's clearly lying about how long he knew, because Katie asks him, how long did you know? He's like, I found out in August. First he says, I didn't know long, you know, and then she's like, no, she presses him, then he says, I found out about a one-night stand in August, and he is completely lying, you can tell. And I always say this, I've been saying this, Schwartz is a typical Libra. They are the ultimate gaslighters, and it's bringing back memories for me of my Libra exes. Because how come he went from, oh, I didn't know about it, to, oh yeah, I knew about a one-night stand? Are you serious? He knew about a one-night stand, but he still was making those jokes and stuff about Rachel at the glamping, if you guys remember that episode, at the glamping scene, that people need to stay away from Rachel. If he knew about the one-night stand, why is he making jokes like that? And that's what I've had issues with about a lot of Libras in my life. They'll press buttons and they'll be like, oh, it's a joke, but it's really not. Like, he was trying to make a fool of Ariana by saying something like that, and I really don't like that. So then Kristen comes into the house, into Ariana's house. They go to that scene, and they do like flashbacks of Miami Girl, of Kristen. I can't remember if they do Miami Girl at this scene, but they have done flashbacks of Miami Girl, and it just reminded me that whole situation. I don't know about you guys, I always believed Miami Girl. I really liked Ariana, so I gave her a pass, and maybe I shouldn't have. But, you know, if he said, and I think the common denominator is obviously Sandoval, but if he's running around telling people, Rachel was claiming the wrong because she was her friend. But if a guy comes to you, which has happened to me, and said, I've broken up with this girl, you know, we still live together, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't get in situations like that. But when I was younger, I did. When I was in my 20s, I did. And I would be like, wanting to have hope in that situation. But now I'm like, you know, when you're done, call me if it's really worth it. But when you're younger, you don't really understand that. So that's why I gave Ariana a pass then, because I said he probably lied to her. So they talk about what happened, Kristen with Ariana, and you know, it's so telling. I was telling a friend of mine this, that I feel like fundamentally Ariana and Tom are two very different people. Ariana, you can tell, was nurtured growing up. You can tell and from what I picture, you can tell she was loved. You can tell people, like, her parents believed in her. I believe, from what I can see, Sandoval comes from like a very fragmented, broken family, that kind of thing. And I think deep down, Sandoval can never really truly be happy for Ariana, because I sense some kind of jealousy about her, about how she grew up. But you know, it's just, he deep down has resentment for her, and I think it's because he resents the fact that he grew up a certain way and she didn't, or she grew up a certain way and he didn't. You know, you can just tell fundamentally they're two different people. And what's also very telling of that is in 9 years, she's grown, she's evolved, she's matured, and he's aged physically, but his mentality is still the same. He's still yelling, still being dramatic, still being an empty, hollow person full of lies. So Kristen and Ariana do a ritual cleansing. I love doing that kind of stuff. It's so empowering. That's the one thing I miss. Two things I miss about LA is doing stuff like that, like rituals, astrology and stuff, and the topography, like hiking and stuff. Other than that, I don't miss anything. Then Sandoval meets up with LVP, and he tries to blame Ariana and says she struggles trusting people when she defended, and this is so messed up. She defended and she trusted him. She defended him over and over and she trusted him over and over. And he's clearly just saying that to make her seem like the bad person. But you know what's so funny? Ariana is such a gem, nobody is buying it. With Kristen, people could buy it because she didn't behave her best. But Ariana really did do her best in this relationship. You can see that. So Sandoval's crying. First, LVP is like looking at him like, oh, please, And then he starts crying, hysterically crying. It seems very dramatic, over the top. Almost like he's putting on an act. And he might be because he's an actor, I've dated a few actors and actually they've been very, very nice. Very nice people and very sincere. So people say actors are shallow. I've seen that with a lot of actresses, but actors I haven't really seen that much, but that's just my opinion. So they go to Grandmasters in West Hollywood to meet up. I went actually there for an interview 2 years ago for a job. So it's like bringing back memories. Sheena says that Rachel's filing legal paperwork against her, and they speak about Schwartz's quote-unquote not knowing. Katie says Schwartz is coming, and Schwartz comes in. He sits down to talk to Ariana. It's a little awkward because Ariana clearly doesn't want to talk to him, and I wouldn't want to talk to him either. But he does, and he says sorry, and he's like half apologizing in my opinion, because he's not taking full accountability, and it's very unfortunate that they just willy-nilly mess with somebody like this, mess with a lot of people like this. So I feel deeply about what a lot of Ariana is saying when she says, what I miss. They go to a confession, that's what it's called, a confessional. Oh no, excuse me, she's still talking to Schwartz, and she says, a lot of what I miss is not real, and feeling like your relationship was all an illusion, and it's very, very real. Like, I've definitely felt like that. Again, I just wish Ariana the best. We're rooting for her. We're really rooting for her. So they got to Brock and Sheena at their place and talking about the situation. And Sandoval is at the door with a package. He walks in, speaks to Sheena, and he just seems like he's acting. I don't know, guys. What do you think? I just feel like he seems like he's acting. The whole thing is just like very dramatic, hollow. You know what I'm saying? Like bad acting. Maybe that's why he never made it as an actor. So Sandoval speaks to Sheena, and he seems like he's acting. I said that. I wrote little notes. I also thought Miami Girl was true, because Sheena's like, oh, Miami Girl, which I thought was true, and I think most of us thought Miami Girl was true, honestly. And then he says, Ariana knew the truth about that. And it's just like, behind her back, he's saying all these things about her that's not true. She probably didn't know. She probably defended him. Gosh, what a waste of a defense. What a waste, Because a good guy deserves that kind of defending. But he doesn't. So then he brings up Billy Lee, and I'm telling you, he brings up that it happened one other time, and I'm telling you, I feel like it's Billy Lee. I really feel like that is Billy Lee, the person. He's like the one other time. And I don't think it's one other time. I think it's been many other times. So he's explaining himself to Sheena. He just sounds like a boy playing adult who doesn't know anything about life. And I'm telling you, I've met so many guys like that in LA, so many, and in New York too, where I'm from. I met a lot of them that are just like pushing 40 or 40 plus, and just acting like kids, thinking it's cool. And they grow up and they're in their 50s, 60s, and they still act like that. And it's very embarrassing and very... Anyways, I'm really excited for next week, the finale. If you like the video, please like it. Please subscribe via Spotify or another podcast streaming. Please subscribe, because every week I will be doing different recaps. If you'd like to make a suggestion, if you're watching on YouTube, please comment below. I'm so excited to be doing this. Take care.